All right, Kelly, I know you said Dr. Patterson is going to be late. Do we want to go ahead and get started? And I know Dr. Register, you're driving, so we can kind of go through the agenda list here, and happy to have you comment, or Kelly, however you want to feel like it'll work best.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I see the scan for the QR code. Do we have the agenda where we can have it up where everyone can see?
Yeah, let me stop sharing this and I'll switch over to the to the agenda. There you go.
All right. So I don't know, has everyone had a chance, or anyone had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting from February, from the Barnsley meeting? I personally was not there. So if someone can.
I did. Motion to approve.
Is there anybody on here who can second that?
Yeah, this is Vic. I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, any opposed on that? Okay. All right, well, let's roll on in. From a grants and just overall commission update, Liz, can you give us an update?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Well, most of the updates are actually as a result of the work this group is doing. So it's really exciting. The first thing is that if you haven't heard yet, and it's going to be announced at the commission meeting next week. So hot off the press, you guys will be the first to hear it. The level 3 and level 4 readiness cost survey abstract that we submitted to the AAST was accepted for podium presentation. So that's super exciting. Not much gets podium at AA, and that automatically means that it goes in the Journal of Trauma. So we're feverishly working on that manuscript now. And we're really excited. So that is like directly resulting from the work that all of you have done. All of you will get credit as collaborators and project contributors for that, because it is the work that you did to get those costs recorded so that we could share that. And I think that the fact that it got accepted for podium at AAST is a testament to the fact that we do not have a lot of information on readiness costs around level 3 and level 4. It's such a novel concept, and we hope that more people can sort of jump on the bandwagon with this. Let's see. The Pennsylvania Trauma System Foundation, the group that's doing the work to do the consult visits for the level 4s, has been, my understanding, they sent me a PowerPoint that they went through. They had individual calls with each of the level 4s to review sort of what the PRQ looks like, setting up for your visit, all the logistical things involved. And they said they were going to send me a link to the PRQ. I haven't received that yet. I did get the, and I'm going to share it with the commission as well. I just got the bios for the site surveyors. And I'm really pleased to see that they have 2 emergency department physicians who serve as trauma medical directors in their level 4s, because I think that's really going to be meaningful to other level 4s, because most of you don't have trauma surgeons roaming around in your building. So you need to know what that looks like from an emergency medicine perspective, because that's the person who's running your program. So it'll be really valuable feedback to get from those. In addition, the ACS console, I'll just go into this now, Kelly, even though we haven't under new business, but many of you know we've been talking about doing a world-focused ACS system consult. I just became aware yesterday, as a matter of fact, that the Office of EMS and Trauma is trying to get a confirmation of a visit for a NHTSA EMS system evaluation for October. And that was the evaluation that needed to be completed prior to doing a full ACS trauma system consult. That's a lot of words and a lot of concepts, and it is complicated. And I apologize for that. I'm trying to do the best I can to sort of explain it to you. So since that visit had to be conducted first and we didn't really want to wait, and we had so much momentum about rural, and even when they come do a full system consult, the tendency is to focus on urban just because it's estimated that about 50% of the EMS calls are run in the urban areas. So it obviously gets a lot more press than the rural areas. So ACS was very intrigued by the idea and they really wanted to do it for us. And we had calls back and forth. Renee has been on those calls. Dr. Patterson has been on those calls. And Courtney has joined in on a few of those calls. And the date that they just came back with us is January 9th through the 13th. So we're working through to see if that date works for everybody and if that will be good. Unfortunately, we're straddling a lot of other things. There's a lot of meetings, trauma meetings, national trauma meetings in the fall, and even up through December when you include the annual TQIP meeting in that. So, so we kind of need to talk about that a little bit. And then in terms of the optimal course, many of you know we were planning on doing an optimal course as part of St. Simon's. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that optimal course. We wanted to do it specific for you for the level 3 and level 4 centers. Many of you will notice that as the gray book was just released in March, they eliminated all of the level 4 criteria. So unfortunately, and the ACS is very aware of this. The COT has just stood up a rural committee that actually has rural trauma center leaders as part of it. So it's not a rural committee full of academicians. So it's nice. It's actually folks that are really relevant to care in the rural setting. And they do want to bring back the rural, the level 4 criteria. And it looks like at this point, they will probably publish it as a separate document. So obviously the optimal folks do not want to deliver a course when we're sort of hanging out in limbo here about what that criteria might look like, if it will be the same or if it will be different with respect to level 4s. But if we want to, rural topic is still going strong. And I know a lot of you have already taken the rural topic course. But in my own experience and having done this for about 15 years now, I had to take topic about 3 times before it really sunk in. So, and many people are the same way. So we certainly could do another rural topic course. I know there's still a lot of turnover going on out there, so that might really be helpful. So Kelly, I really just need this group to kind of make some recommendations around that sort of stuff. We would probably use next year's funds because we're getting to the point where we have to encumber, fund encumbrance is almost over now. So it will have to be with next year's funds. But when we're talking about doing virtual courses, it's really easy to turn that around quickly. And we probably still could get something done in the August or September timeframe virtually. It's just there's no rush to do it now that we won't have it in person at St. Simon's.
Hey, Liz, Dr. Patterson walked in on the very end of this, and so, you know, I'll go ahead and from a topic or optimal perspective or the rural topic perspective, I mean, I totally agree that that is something we need to look at and ask for. I don't know who all from an administrator's perspective is on the call. I don't know what your turnover is in your 3 or 4 trauma centers for your trauma program managers or coordinators or whatever their title is, but that is something that even if you've been doing it 2 years, every time you take it, you're at a different level professionally and you gain more experience every time. So I personally think it's a good idea, but I'd like to see if there's anybody else on the call that has any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is Alicia. I totally agree. We just had our ACS like administrative consult visit, and that was our biggest thing was PI. And a lot of it was just kind of a misunderstanding or like not really having a good full understanding on what PI means. especially for a smaller size program. So I think it's a great idea. So I second that.
And I see folks putting stuff in the chat. If you don't want to unmute or you don't want to say anything, but you still agree, please just pop it into the chat, because we record, we can capture stuff as in the chat as part of the minutes. So if you want rural topics, since we can't do optimal for right now, no, did he tell you what the cost was for optimal?
Hey Liz, this is Dr. Patterson. Sorry I'm late, and I apologize to everybody. I was in the operating room, just getting through a couple of minutes late. So I'm slow and I'm old. As far as, I think personally, I think it's a great idea. I've only taken the rural topic course once. I've taken the regular topic course, I think, at least 2 other times, and I do learn something from it every time I go in, because I'm in a different position. I think Kelly used the word professionally, but it's not necessarily just professionally. I'm in a different position with my trauma program at that point too, depending on my other staff. And I think it does gel a little bit of your staff from a PI standpoint. And I think, Alicia's words were taken very well, because I think the last time I had an ACS visit, there were several things that PI that I didn't think I really covered very well. And I thought they would get onto a good bit. And I think that's where they suggested, was not necessarily getting onto me, but just increasing the educational level inside the trauma program, because it is a way of life to do PI. It's not something that comes easy to a lot of people, me included in that. So I would definitely vote for a rural topic course later on in the year as well.
It looks like many people are putting that in the chat too, Dr. Patterson. So everybody's on board. And I love what you said about like where you are in your program and how much of a difference that makes, because as you mature and you do take something different away from it. So, and even if, the smaller the program, the more turnover hurts you. So as you have, turnover in your program, it's helpful to take it together for those of you who are experiencing that, because then you're at different places in your experience with the program, and that can be really advantageous.
Right.
So Liz, quick question on this. So Pennsylvania's coming in October, and then we're looking at a rural survey from ACS January of 2023, correct?
Yes.
2023, rural health, is that right?
The date that they proposed was January 9th through the 13th.
Right.
Now that, go ahead.
That's subject to change, yeah, because I think I was just coming in when you were talking about that. And that, of course, is subject to change. I know originally that we had talked about trying to even do it earlier, but, try to get it in the legislative session. But I think it's not going to work out with everything else in Pennsylvania coming in October as well. So I think it's a good time if they can keep up with those dates. I know they're having problems maintaining the dates they already promised.
Yeah, so they just sent this to me. This is kind of hot off the press. Dr. Patterson, Mackenzie Daphner, who had been communicating with us, had said to me that was the date that they came back with. And they know that we wanted it a little bit earlier, but they're just not really going to be able to accommodate it. And one of the things that I had mentioned on the outset was that I just learned yesterday that Office of EMS and Trauma is trying to schedule their NHTSA EMS system evaluation to occur in October. So that will be, that will be another thing that will obviously involve rural. So I just want to be mindful that we don't, stack up too many things.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I think it's great. All
right.
Anything else on grant updates, Liz?
Is there anything you need direction?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Anything else we need to discuss on grant updates for the GTC meeting?
No, the only other quick GTC in general update that I had was that the administrator group met a couple of weeks ago, and they had a co-chairs meeting as well as a full committee meeting. The co-chairs have been assigned as Katrina Kiefer from AU, Francis Van Beek from Wellstar for level 2s. Katrina obviously from AU is level 1 rep, Francis level 2 rep, Amy Watson from Effingham, if I got that right, Amy. I'm sorry, yes, thank you. It is Effingham as a level 3 rep, and then Damian Damian Scott from Emmanuel as our level 4 rep. So we're really excited about that. And then they had a full presentation on the trauma funding formulas, which is like enough to make you sort of go crazy and want to poke your eyes out, but it was very important information for that group to get out, because obviously as we want to move forward and make sure our funding formulas are on target and actually covering you, you know, for what your costs are to the extent that we can with the monies that we have, that will be really important. And the only other thing about funding that I wanted to mention is it's come to our attention that like not everybody has outcomes module. And going back to the PI piece, that's really tough to do good PI and document it when you don't have somewhere to, you don't have a repository to keep it in. So we want to make sure that you all have outcomes module. That was a commission initiative years ago. Everybody got the outcomes module, but not everybody was included in the funding at that time. And some people may have missed out just because of, again, turnover and things like that. But I want to say that with the web hosting that we have the quote for, the web hosting cost includes outcomes module and all of those other items that you really need. It's really a soup to nuts package, including report writer. The only thing that it doesn't include, that I don't think it includes, is that PRQ report writer package. And Alicia, Dr. Register, I know you can speak to that with your administrative consult. You need that PRQ report writer. So I'm hopeful that maybe we can either get that included. I don't think it was included. I can check it real quick to make sure, but I think we would just need a motion from this group that we want to include the web hosting, just so I can make sure that we can bring it forward to the commission. I can make sure that it's actually in the funding that got allocated towards the trauma centers.
Thank you, Liz. I would entertain a motion from anyone to ask for the ESO quote. Can we make a little caution that it does include the PRQ module, Liz? Is that okay? The outcomes module, or the outcomes module?
Yeah, it will include the outcomes module, I think. And while you guys are talking and getting a motion in a second, I'm going to look and see if it includes, I don't know if Gina's on here. She had the original ebook. Includes the PRQ package, but we'll just include your motion to say web hosting and PRQ report writer package. How about that? I fashioned the motion for you.
Okay. Anybody want to bring that motion forward?
Yeah,
I motion to include it.
Sorry, a little garble there. Who was that?
This is Ashley. I said I motion to include the PRQ package. I think it would be really beneficial. We definitely could have used it this go around.
Well, Ashley, can we dovetail on it? Just basically, we need a motion for the whole thing. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Okay, all right. Is there a second on the motion?
Yeah, I'll second. Alicia.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Register. Any comment related to this? Anybody have any concerns? All we're doing here is a subcommittee is pushing this forward as one of our requests to bring to the GTC at their next meeting to see about funding for the level 3 and level 4 trauma centers for the ESO web-based registry. All right, no comments. All those in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
How about any opposed?
Aye.
All right. I'm going to say that carried at that point. Great, I appreciate that. Liz? I think Gina had sent something in the chat that says she was going to clarify the ESO quote as well.
Yep, I just saw that. And Gina, I did go back in the email that you had sent. Sorry, this is like one of those emails I have flagged and tagged, and it does not say PRQ report writer package. So we'll make sure that we get, the nice thing is ESO already knows what you guys have and what you don't have. So we'll make sure what the cost of that is, so we can at least have the money squared away by next, and we don't have to have it down to a dollar amount. We can work that out. What you guys just did is the important thing. You want the web hosting and the report writer package.
All right, he just had to take a phone call, so he stepped out, but that sounds good. So to clarify from you, Liz, we're doing the motion we've got a motion on that's been accepted and approved for the rural topic and one for the ESO web-based, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure. The only other thing that we have on this agenda is the March pause information. Courtney, I know you're on here. I saw you in the chat. Are you able to talk a little bit about March pause or give the group an update?
I'll certainly try. Am I live?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. So several things that we have been working on. We did get a draft. We have a draft PowerPoint of the course. And for those of you who might be new at this, the concept is to develop a training program and a draft protocol that hospitals could use and EMS could use on initial care of the trauma patient, particularly the critically injured trauma patient in a rural environment. The March PAWS acronym was developed by the military, and because there's pretty good peer-reviewed journals on that, some science behind it, we're trying to use that as our basis to develop this training. So we have got a draft PowerPoint. We had an initial class down at Lake Blackshear. From that, we've got a draft PowerPoint and a draft curriculum. We are in the next few weeks going to have a smaller group that will take that and try to move some of the military into the civilian world, because it was developed with the critically ill soldier in mind. So we're going to try to modify that somewhat to make sure that it meets the needs of the civilian population. I'm looking at a small group to do that, and we will come out with you can call it a final draft or whatever, but that would then go to the physicians on this group, the surgeons and the ER docs who are the ones who will have to verify, vet, whatever, sign off on what we come up with. And when they do that, and we have a curriculum that we think will meet the needs, and we have a plan for 3 pilot projects that we will fund. And at this point, we're planning on doing one at Archbald, one at Cordeal, and one at Emmanuel Medical. And I'm hoping to do those as soon as possible. As part of the work that we've been doing, we I think Dr. Register and Dr. Patterson, if I speak wrongly, please correct me, but both of those had an interest in developing a hybrid curriculum simply because of the time frame of physicians having to be sitting in a class with their work schedule. So I kind of tripped over a guy named Jimmy Colquitt at Mercer and had some conversations with him. Regina Medeiros actually put me onto him, had some conversation with him. He's very astute with the Moodle platform, which is a free platform, although you can pay a little bit and get some bangs and whistles. So the concept right at the moment is when we do those pilot programs to be able to utilize those lectures to develop this hybrid, so that in the future, these folks will be able to take some of this sitting in their bedroom or their den or living room at night so that they can get it. There would be a series of tests there to make sure that the student adequately absorb the information, and then they would be able to come to a practical skill set where they had a hands-on process to make that happen. After the pilot programs, and we will do some review of student performance and how they view the course and how, if they think it's applicable to where they're at, and if we need to, we'll modify that further to meet those needs, and then hopefully it'll be the old saying, ready for prime time, and then we will start doing that. As a sidebar to all of this, but at least as important, we're hoping to be able to develop a protocol, if you will. I know some folks get hung up on that term, protocol, guidelines, suggestions, whatever, so that a local ER and medical staff at a small rural hospital could accept that and modify it if they need to based on their capabilities, but accept that as a standard way of doing business in rural centers. And then as we move forward with that, then everybody's on the same page. And the concept of the March Pause training is that the physicians, the medics, and the physicians are trained on the same protocol, same standards, the same, much like ACLS did for cardiac, and much like the stroke protocols are done for that discipline. So that's where we're at right at the moment.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it. Hope to have a lot more stuff coming up this summer based on that with Courtney's help. That pretty much cover everything, I think. Sorry, we went a little bit out of order there. I think that pretty much covers our agenda, both the standing agenda items and all the old business. Is there any new business anybody wishes to bring up or any thoughts? Please don't hesitate. If you don't want to speak, put it on the chat.
Dr. Patterson, I've got one thing I'd like to put out to the group. I chair the EMS subcommittee of the Trauma Commission. We've got a call meeting on the 24th of this month. We every year do an equipment grant for the EMS providers. And I go around the state and I get information around the coffee table, or whatever term you want to use, about the difficulty in some areas of getting EMS transportation for critically ill trauma. And I think that falls under my subcommittee to try to, one, quantify that, try to figure out why that's happening, and then try to work with somebody in some groups to see if we can fix that. I think that's, I'll be honest with you, I'm told that there are EMSs who just say, well, we're not transporting critical trauma because we don't have to, and we've got a contract with the county and we're not required to. I don't know if all that's true or not. I hear it enough to believe that you see that much smoke, there's got to be some fire. But I will tell you this, I don't want our subcommittee giving grant money to EMS agencies who simply refuse to take care of critical trauma patients. I just don't want to do that. So we're going to be talking about that on the 24th, but if you have some specific cases, please reach out to me and let me know. So if we don't know exactly what the problem is, I don't think we'll be able to fix it. So thank you, Dr. Patterson.
I mean, it has been talked about, Courtney, and in particular, I know that the GQIP Executive Council has talked about that as well as being a problem, and they've offered, to look into a couple of solutions, one of those being telemedicine for trauma, but also trying to develop a rural regional transport system that would be, that's how they look at it, possibly state funded, or there'd be regional transport vehicles stationed around the state that would ultimately help assist meet other units in the middle of transport and transport those patients to larger trauma centers so that those units would not be out of their respective county for very long. That was one of the other couple of things that were brought up at the Barnsley meeting. So they're still looking into that as well. But again, that's a work in progress. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to report, you know, after your call meeting on the 24th.
Thank you.
Comments?
Dr. Patterson,
Liz,
I think
Liz, are we thinking you need a motion for the rural health ACS visit?
for the rural focus visit for that day, I think it would be helpful for this group to bring that forward. If this group agrees, or I know Renee's on this call, or any other dialogue that we want to have about that, I just want to make sure everybody's okay with it. Or, you know, we should probably go back and if that date doesn't work for folks, we should, because they're going to be in your neck of the woods in South Georgia, likely mostly South Georgia. I know there's, you know, we don't want to negate the rural areas of North Georgia, but both those areas, they're going to be in your area. It's not like they're going to plop in Atlanta and have you come up for a meeting, but it takes the whole week. They're there for the whole week. So, you know, and there's some prep work that goes along with that we'd have to do in, you know, November and December. So just wanted to put it out there if everybody's okay with that. And then this group should probably make the motion or, you know, bring that recommendation forward to the commission next week.
So Liz, from that perspective, when you say they do a rural health consult visit, the idea behind that for like new people or people new to the system is they travel and talk to facilities, right? Look at facilities, talk to program managers, talk to directors. Is that right?
Yeah, so remember, this is the rural focused ACS system visit. So this is kind of like that visit that we underwent back in 2008, but only it's just rural. So they look at everything from EMS systems to trauma centers to how it's integrated with whatever other rural health infrastructure exists in the state, as well as Department of Public Health, Office of EMS and Trauma, Commission, Foundation, all of it. Correct.
And the goal there, I mean, it's a consult, so the goal there is to identify weaknesses, give us suggestions, recommendations, that kind of thing, correct?
Correct. And you remember, and Dr. Patterson was on a couple of the calls too, they plan to bring a panel of rural folks in. So again, it's not going to be like level 1 academicians coming in to evaluate what's happening in rural areas. It'll be folks that have done a lot of rural consults throughout the country.
That was one of the things we had stressed in the ACS that we didn't want was the academicians from level 1s. Because again, what I think this subcommittee is trying to do is to draw attention to the level 3s and 4s, get our problems out there, which has been a problem. And ultimately, this is a way to bring national people who've done this as well into the fold, and ultimately get more credence to what we've already kind of said before, identified from a national level. So I think it's a great idea. I have no problem giving the motion for that myself, but I would rather have somebody on the committee do it if you don't mind.
This is Renee. Can I kind of speak for just a moment?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You know, I was the sole deliverer for the state when they did this first state review. And we haven't yet got the guidelines for this specific visit. And there is a lot of work that goes into that. And it does contain a lot from our side. And so I had mentioned to Liz that I just did not know that that was a feasible date for us because we've got so much on our plate. You know, it is a lot for our office because it does have to deal with a lot of the entities for public health and EMS. So, you know, I mean, you can make the recommendation, but just knowing that that date may not work out in the end just because of we don't have the time and resources to make that particular date work.
Hey, Renee, this is Kelly. If the NHTSA people are coming, like October 2022, does some of that information overlap for the PRQ that's needed for the consult visit?
I would imagine so. And I don't know what the turnaround on that NHTSA visit is. If it's like, the ACS, we're talking 3 months before we get a report. So I don't know exactly what the turnaround date is for when we get a report, because I don't have the date booked yet. I mean, David will probably address that at the commission meeting. But, we don't have a specific date. We just know it's in October. But we were counting on a lot of that information to not only when we were originally discussing the state review again, but even in this particular incident, that information would definitely be valuable to have when any of these surveys occur.
I didn't know if there was stuff you had to provide prior to NHTSA coming that you
Yes.
could overlap and reuse instead of waiting on NHTSA to bring their report, if you would be able to just copy and paste from a previous, that's what I was asking.
Well, I mean, of course, the NHTSA report does not just involve trauma. It is heavily to the EMS side, but we're supposed to meet within the next few weeks in our department to go over what's needed for the NHTSA assessment. And honestly, it's been 10 to 15 years since we've had that. So this is all new as far as, kind of what the recommendations are going to be even from that. But the goal was to utilize most of that information or some of that information in any of the ACS surveys.
Right.
Sure, but I understand, time constraints, et cetera, but I think right now, January is still a good distance off. I think it's a good, that's their preliminary, what they came back to us. Now, we had actually hoped to do something sooner. We, in fact, had talked with them about October, November, and then get into December, it's impossible. So that's why we had kind of selected on January. I think Jack Welch, the former GM CEO, said it best: by reaching for what appears to be impossible, we can often actually do the impossible. So I think, we need to keep it on the books, and if we need to move it back, and I can tell you that ACS will probably move it a little bit themselves, because they were very unsure that they could get everything done by January as well.
Yeah, their schedule has been a moving target, I can assure you that.
It has been. Any other comment? Have a motion at all? Anybody want to present a motion?
Yeah, I'll present a motion, Alicia. As motion for the ACS rural system visit.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Anybody on the chat line?
Hey, this is Courtney. I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Courtney. All right, hearing none. Any opposition? And I hear none at this point, so the motion carries at this point. Go ahead and add that to our minutes for the upcoming GTC meeting.
We got it.
All right. Any other comments? Any other things are?
Damien, sorry, I was monitoring the chat. I was just showing. Thank you, Damien.
Oh, thank you, Damien. Appreciate it. All right. Hearing no other comments, I'll hear a motion for adjournment.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
There you go. Thank you. Don't be shy about that one. All right. Any opposition to that? We'll call the meeting officially closed. I thank everybody and hope to see everybody. I think we may have another meeting prior to August, but ultimately hope to see everybody in August as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll send the QR code to sign in out to the group so you can record your attendance. We appreciate you all.